I love this time of year. March has arrived. Coming up on Saturday, the Duke Blue Devils take a trip to Chapel Hill. They're going to the Dean Smith Center to take on the North Carolina Tar Heels, going for the season sweep over those guys in baby blue. Let's see if that can happen. What are going to be keys to that game and a whole lot more? All of that on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. So great to have you here with us on this Thursday, March 2nd, 2023. Duke men's basketball getting set for a game coming up on Saturday against North Carolina in Chapel Hill. We're going to talk about that game with my good pal Dustin Shue from the Devil's Den podcast. It's going to be a remarkable conversation. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to our show on YouTube so that you can watch Locked On Blue Devils each and every day. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitter at LO_Blue Devils. I'm on Twitter at _JJ_Jackson_. Your support of Locked On Blue Devils means the absolute world to me. So thank you for everything that you do in that regard. Without further ado, let me bring on my good pal, Dustin Shue, who joins us here on the program. Dustin, I hope you're doing well, man.
Man, doing as good as can be.
This time of year, March, the one game left against North Carolina, then we've got the conference tournament, then Selection Sunday, and we get into the big dance. You and I, North Carolina natives, love this state so very much. What has this time of year meant to you throughout your life, man?
I mean, this is the time of the year you think of the rolling carts with the TVs on them in school, man. You know, we're not doing anything this week. I'm watching Wake Forest play Virginia, at noon on Thursday.
Right.
So, yeah, awesome. Let's do this.
So here we are, excited about what's going to happen come tournament time for the Duke Blue Devils and many other teams. And just getting set for Selection Sunday, getting set for that tournament in Greensboro. It's awesome that the event is back in Greensboro once again, because that just kind of adds to the nostalgia a little bit, right?
Yeah, for us North Carolinians, for sure. I know there's people outside of here that don't particularly like it,
right?
Being in Greensboro. I'm not pointing any fingers at certain coaches, but, they're, I guess, the oldest tenured coach in the ACC or whatnot doesn't care for Greensboro, so it is what it is.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm super pumped that it's back in this state, the state that I love so much. You do as well, and really excited that this state also gets to put in another installment of the amazing Duke and North Carolina rivalry coming up on Saturday inside Chapel Hill. We'll get to that in just a moment. Our Dukies have won 5 games in a row. Should be 6 if we were to factor in what happened in Charlottesville a few weeks back. But nonetheless, 5 in a row, man, playing really, really good basketball, Dustin.
Yeah, longest win streak in the ACC right now. We're trending up in our shooting, besides this last game against NC State, where for whatever reason we just couldn't throw it in the ocean from behind the arc. But cutting down the turnovers has been a really huge key for us. Even in the game against State, I think we committed 10 turnovers as opposed to the 21 the first game. So, shoring up the offense, taking better shots, and being careful and precious with the ball, really.
22-8 overall record for Duke right now, 13-6 in the Atlantic Coast Conference, and it was a year that Duke went unbeaten inside Cameron Indoor Stadium. First time since 2014. That's kind of crazy to think about, man.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that 2014 team did it too. That team couldn't guard a statue, but somehow, they got it done at home. Actually, I think that would have been the year I went to the Vermont game. We almost lost a non-conference home game that year. That would have been crazy.
That would have been
to win all the ACC ones, but to have lost a home game. I think Rodney Hood pretty much went coast to coast and put a layup to win.
Yeah.
Right down the wire, and we walked out there. It was like, I've never seen a loss inside of Cameron, and that was the closest one.
If you are a Duke basketball fan and you don't have the Duke basketball memory that Dustin Shue has, right? If you're not,
I was
living
at
up
that
to his
game, so that's a lot easier to
No, but
remember the ones you go to.
But just to hear 2014 and to be able to, so quickly, let's put people there. Jabari Parker, Rodney Hood, that team, that season, 1 year prior to, of course, Duke winning the national championship. But it's just crazy to think about it, man, because the very next year they do win a national championship, don't go undefeated at home. You think about the Zion Williamson team, doesn't go undefeated at home. Jason Tatum, Grayson Allen, all those guys
Bagley,
never had unbeaten careers or seasons playing inside Cameron Indoor Stadium. It's been a while, and yet this team, of all Duke teams, in Jon Scheyer's first year as head coach, got it done.
It's a testament to Jon. It really is. He's been incredible. I know there's rumblings, throughout the year early on. Some of us knew we were going to take our lumps. You just got to be patient with them. It wasn't fun to watch the first state game where I don't think we scored in the first 10 minutes. Essentially, it was 18-0. And, I took all my Duke gear off, at halftime and just anyways. Yeah. The job that Jon's done this year, especially being able to just get it done at home, has been incredible.
A lot of close games at home this season as well. When you look at Tuesday night's game this week against NC State, of course, Duke has a 12-point lead all of a sudden with 2 minutes left. You feel like the dagger is there. Listening to David Shoemate on the Blue Devil Network, the radio call, the pull-up jumper that Roach had at the free throw line, he called a dagger in the moment. And then next thing you know, a flurry of 3-point shots, and NC State has us all biting our nails again.
I don't know if those guys had money on the line or what, because, they're like, we just got to get it under 6 real quick. But that's how it goes sometimes. You can't ever, you got to play to the buzzer. It's just how it is in ACC play, especially State's last game of the year. They were trying to win. They just come off a really tough loss where Clemson just shelled them in Raleigh. So they were going to go down easy, and they fought the whole game. That was a tough game.
They absolutely did. Let's talk a little bit more about this Duke team. Their regular season so far, 1 game left, and then they get set for the NCAA tournament. We do that after this timeout here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. It is, of course, passing the midway point of the NBA season, and now is the perfect time for you to download FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores, 3-point shots drained, and so much more. Again, the no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 back in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Moving forward here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils, JJ Jackson alongside my pal Dustin Shue from the Devil's Den podcast. Other notable Duke home games this year, of course, going unbeaten. We mentioned the close test that they had earlier in the week to get revenge on the loss that they had to NC State a little bit earlier. Duke beat Miami by 2 points at home, had some scares against Wake Forest, Notre Dame. They had some really, really close games that they had to gut it out there at Cameron.
Yeah, and, a lot of those, I think Jeremy Roach came up clutch down the stretch, and a lot of those too. This game here against State was what most people think is going to be Jeremy Roach's last game in Cameron. As I think it's not official, but I believe he's kind of made it known that he's going to move on to the next step, whatever that's going to be. So to go out the way he did, 20 points. Just commanding the ball, that high pick and roll that they were running on Burns. He was just getting whatever he wanted to pull up in the mid range, getting to the rim. Really just carrying us and doing it all.
Yeah, you think about this Duke team, because that's important to point out as well. Unbeaten, and you want to think about a senior day game against NC State, capping off a season, not losing a single game at home. The seniors that they recognized, 4 senior managers for Duke basketball were recognized. But on the floor, other than guys that are going to make NBA decisions or possibly transfer moving on, it's not like they had those senior day moments or a senior season at Cameron Indoor this year.
Yeah, that's, lately, I guess we haven't had a lot of seniors regardless. You had your Jack Whites and Javin, Justin Robinson, guys like that. So, to go through this year, we're just having, Grandison being here for just 1 year. It's kind of an odd thing, I guess, to go through, and Roach only being a junior, but I believe he is graduating after this year. So
great for him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, those 4 managers too, by the way,
Sure.
Listening to the Blue Devil Network, they're set up for success. One of the 4 managers destined for a career on Wall Street. A couple of them have front office gigs lined up in the NBA. They announced Adam Silver would be the commencement speaker once again at Duke. I mean, if you're part of that program, if you're affiliated with our university and Duke University, you're set up for some big success, man.
Yeah, there's never bad on the resume, right?
Yeah, never at all. Never at all. So talking about that Duke win and the player that we want to highlight here, Jeremy Roach, the fact that likely could have been his last game. Again, 3 years playing college basketball, putting together a productive career, leading Duke to the Final Four a season ago. This team is playing their best basketball right now, could be poised for another deep March run if he does decide to test the waters, start the professional career, look for other opportunities to hoop somewhere. Very thankful for what he was able to do for Duke, and here he is. He turned in 5 20-point games already this season, when it didn't feel like Duke had a go-to scorer, so to speak, when Filipowski is leading the way, averaging, 13, 14 points per game. Jeremy walked away with 5 20-point games.
Yeah, and we needed each one of them pretty much. Like you kind of pointed to, I'm thankful Jeremy came back. He didn't have to come back. That's the thing a lot of people don't really think about. Everybody else left. We could have been left with nothing. So to him to come back onto a team, brand new coach, 11 new guys other than Jalen, says a lot about Jeremy, and I'm just thankful that he did that. I don't know where we'd be without him, to be honest with you. He's been a vet and, kind of led by example here.
Maybe he will surprise us all and come back and play for Duke next year. You just don't know. You got to wait and see. Tyrese Proctor, another guard that's got a big decision to make, and then there are more guards coming in. We're spending way too much time talking about next year.
Sure.
When it's the best time of year in March.
You're right.
And there's still a lot
Live in the now.
playing for. Live in the now, indeed. I think Tyrese Proctor has been playing his best ball this time of year.
Oh, I mean, Proctor was just unbelievably. He's become such a great two-way player. The job he did on Baby T, on Terquavion, I can't even say his name, but Smith, Terquavion Smith, I think he was in his head. They showed him getting chippy, obviously. Might have, baited him into a little dead ball technical, but he was just in his head and in his chest all game. And I think, he did the same thing to Couture when we played Virginia Tech. He's just been really, pressuring and fighting his butt off through all those screens that he, has to run through every game. So shouts to Proctor, man. He's been amazing here lately.
Locked On Blue Devils here today. JJ Jackson alongside my pal Dustin Shu from the Devil's Den podcast, getting you set for Duke and North Carolina coming up this weekend. I know that you guys always put out brand new content talking about Duke basketball on your podcast, and it's the best time. Dustin, tell me a little bit about the show and again, how excited you are for this game coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, so the guys, I believe they spoke with Brennan Marks the other day when I was down your way in Mississippi. So they got that one coming out soon, and then we're going to be talking about the Carolina game. Obviously, that's going to be a big game coming up, what that can mean for us, what it can mean for them. But yeah, find us on Apple, Spotify, whatever your podcast platform that you choose.
I love it. Devil's Den, leave us a 5-star rating and review, and then leave me a 5-star rating and review as well here for Locked On Blue Devils. Taking on North Carolina earlier this season, Derek Lively has 4 points, but he has 14 rebounds and 8 blocks. That's the impressive numbers for his performance. What are you expecting in this rematch with the Tar Heels?
Yeah, I mean, this one, I don't know if they've kind of found something by accident. The last game, Baycott got into foul trouble, and they played small and hit, 14, 15 threes all of a sudden for the worst three-point shooting team in the ACC. They've kind of shot the ball well the last couple of games, so they're trending in that direction. So we're going to have Lively as someone that can guard out on the perimeter and kind of chase down, even RJ Davis or something. If he gets switched on him, I think he can at least keep his hand up and make it hard to shoot over him.
What about the fact you talk about this Duke team looking for X factors? Derek Lively had such a big game. Obviously, Tyrese Proctor, I've been a big fan of his all season long. Still waiting for the massive Jaden Shoot moments that are going to come in the next few years. I can't wait for that to happen. But what about Mark Mitchell, man? 12-1 is Duke's record when he scores in double figures, and a lot of those wins have been coming recently.
Yeah, I mean, Mark's kind of a do-it-all guy, right? He's going to rebound, defend, can score. When he's being aggressive, when he's not just being another guy out on the court, when he's catching the ball and really putting the defense in a position that they have to make a decision, come up on him, he can drop it off. He's been going strong. Need him to finish a couple more, but if he gets to the free throw line, he's been knocking them down. I think we definitely want him to score double figures. What do you say? It's 12-1. So
12-1, yeah.
Give me 10 at least.
Yeah. There was a Trevor Keel stat like that last year. That if Trevor got to I think it was 14 points or one of those numbers, that Duke's record was just outstanding when he was able to become a big scorer for Duke. So it's funny how that happens when some of those guys that are such a big part of your team, but not necessarily for the point scoring, but when they do that, how much greater the team's success is.
Yeah, and for Mark, he's such a low volume guy. He doesn't really take a lot of shots,
Great
so
point.
his efficiency is normally through the roof for us. If he's going to score 6 of 8 or something like that, that's what you need.
Great point. So here we are with Duke. Obviously, we mentioned the 13-6 record. We know now, Dustin, when we get set for the ACC tournament next week in Greensboro, there is no way whatsoever, no scenario that Duke finishes worse than the 5th seed in the ACC tournament. They can, however, finish as high as 2nd. What does that mean to you?
Like I said, John's first year, I was hoping for a 1-4 finish, which we would be had some officiating discrepancies been taken
different
care
in Charlottesville.
Yeah, sure. So I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but I mean, you look back at that. You look back at the Virginia Tech game that we could have won, the Clemson game that we could have won. There's a lot of should and couldas, but overall, the season we've had, I've been really impressed with what John's been able to do.
Now that Duke is, the longest winning streak in the ACC, they have played close and competitive games against the teams ahead of them in the standings, even beat a team like Pitt, who's ahead of them in the standings right now. I mean, what matchup wise, is there any team ahead of Duke that you would be most concerned about? How are you feeling about Duke's chances going into Greensboro?
Miami is going to be tough. That's just the way they spread
you out.
They always are. The good news is it would be in Greensboro. Hopefully we would have a big contingency of fans there.
Yeah, gosh, we'd hope. Yeah.
Yeah. Although if Carolina's still alive, those guys are rooting against us. So you always have that aspect anytime we play in Greensboro, Raleigh, or Charlotte. There's going to be more Carolina fans, and whoever Duke's playing, they're going to be pulling for them.
Yeah.
So Miami scares me probably the most out of any of those teams. Other than that, I think I'd like to meet any of them, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat, and I think this Duke team is going to prove a lot of people wrong come March. I mean, we got to see how the bracket shapes out. Really interested to see NCAA tournament picture, where Duke ends up in all of this. But, boy, I tell you what, it's a good feeling knowing that you're playing your best basketball this time of year. There are so many other teams that have been kind of in that picture all season long, and they're on, losing 5 of 7 or losing, their last 3 of whatever. At least Duke is playing their best ball at the right time of year.
Yeah, and, it's a testament to just how John's brought the team along. Early in the season, you weren't getting much from Lively. Whitehead, obviously, him and Lively were injured throughout a lot of it, but the freshmen have really been coming along, and it's really starting to come together at the right time.
I love it. Can't wait to see what Duke is able to do coming up on Saturday. You feeling good? I mean, the last time we were in the Smith Center, it was Coach K's last visit to the Dean Dome. Anything you remember that you want to bring up here from that game And then just one final thought about.
I mean, obviously AJ was just unbelievable that game.
True.
He had like 28, 29. So
he was awesome. Yeah.
I think they put Leaky on Paulo, so that allowed AJ to just
go crazy. Yeah.
So they put Leaky on Flip this game. Maybe Derek comes out and gets hot, or vice versa. They put him Leaky on Derek or Mitchell. They probably wouldn't do that, but somebody's just got to hit some shots. We got to shoot better than 2 of 19.
Thank you for reminding me of that. That was the AJ Griffin game.
Yeah.
27. I'm looking at
the left-handed dunk down the middle. Oh,
that was awesome. That was good stuff.
Chills
Can't
about
wait.
That one.
Hopefully we get more awesome memories like that coming up on Saturday
Yes,
when Duke takes on North Carolina. Dustin, you're the absolute best. Thanks again for stopping by and being on the podcast.
Anytime, brother.
That's my pal Dustin Chu joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Big one coming up on Saturday. Duke and North Carolina from the Dean Dome. That's going to do it for today's show. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.